Hello and welcome to our program Simple Budgets with Excel. We're going to give participants just another minute to log in and be able to participate in the program, and we'll begin just shortly. All right, so we'll go ahead and start the program. Before we begin, I'll go over just some ground rules we've set up. Participants will be muted during this class, and we have video blocked. You will be seeing my screen. Please note that this class is being recorded and it will be posted on a later date. Participants will be sent an email with a link to the recording. At the top of your screen, under View Options, you can find the option to exit full screen if you need to get to other things on your computer. You are welcome to ask questions in our chat box. You will see an icon at the bottom of your screen that says Chat. Click on it and it will open up the box where you can and type in your questions if you have any. Chat is set to go to panelists only. That will be seen by me and my partner who will be facilitating the chat. Please note that any inappropriate comments will cause your immediate removal from the class. This is an intermediate level class with Excel, so basic knowledge of Excel is needed to complete the exercise that we'll be going over, but we do have a step-by-step demo that you can follow along. All right. So today we will go over the benefits of keeping track of your expenses, some tips to help you become more financially literate, and about halfway through our program, we'll demo how to create your monthly expense tracker in Excel. Once again, if you have any questions, please type them in the comment box and my partner will help facilitate the chat. So what is budgeting and why is it important? A written monthly budget is a financial planning tool that allows you to plan how much you will spend or save each month. It also allows you to track your spending habits, and a budget will show you how much money you expect to bring in. Then you can compare that to your required expenses and your discretionary spending. Required expenses could be things like rent or certain utilities that you need to pay, and discretionary spending are things like entertainment expenses or eating out, spending that you could do without. You can view budgets as a tool for achieving your financial goals. Ultimately, the result of your new budget will show you where your money is coming from, how much you have, and where it all goes each month. So tips to creating a practical monthly budget. The first thing that you want to do, before you start creating a budget, you want to have an idea of what your financial situation is. So in order to do that, you're going to gather your financial paperwork. These are things that are like your bank statements, any paycheck stubs, recent utility bills, any investment accounts that you might have, any credit card bills, mortgage payments, maybe some student loans that you have. And then if you do have them, receipts from either the last month or the last couple of months that help you figure out where your spending is going. You want to have access to any information about your income and expenses. And one of the keys to the budget making process is to create a monthly average. The more information you can dig up about your expenses, the better. Now, if you don't have some of the information, that is okay. You can start with your current month and calculate your expenses at the end of the month, and that will help you build the information you need moving forward. The second thing that you would need is to calculate your income. Most of the time, your income is in a form of a regular paycheck where taxes are automatically deducted. And if you are self-employed or if you have outside sources of income, you want to make sure that you capture the amount you are able to spend. The third thing is to create a list of all of your expenses. You want to write down all of what you expect to spend on, and you want to list it in different kind of categories. So this will include mortgage payments, car payments, any groceries, utility payments, personal care, transportation costs, any savings. If you are having some trouble understanding where your money is going, you can use your bank statements or any receipts you have, any credit card statements from the last month or the last couple of months to help you identify where your spending is and some of your spending habits. The next thing is for you to determine where fixed and variable expenses are. So fixed expenses are mandatory expenses that you pay, where you pay the same amount each time. This includes items like mortgage or rent payments, car payments, any set fee that you have on a monthly basis, like internet service or your cell phone payment, and then any credit card, like if you have a standard credit card payment that you want to do every month, those would be like fixed expenses. And that amount stays the same month to month. If you plan to save a fixed amount or pay off a certain amount of debt each month, you want to include that as well. Variable expenses are the type of expenses that will change from month to month, such as groceries or gas for your car, eating out. Maybe if you have, doctor's appointments, those things may not pop up every month, but it might pop up, every 2-3 months or something like that. Once you know what your fixed and variable expenses are, you can start assigning a spending value to each category, beginning with your fixed expenses because they're known, and then you can estimate how much you will need to spend per month on your variable expenses. As mentioned earlier, if you're not sure how much you spend in each category, you can review your credit card transactions or bank statements and make a rough estimate, or you can just start from the beginning of the month, and then once you kind of understand where your spending habits are at the end of the first month, then you can keep track moving forward. The next step is totaling your monthly income and your expenses. If your income is higher than your expenses, you're off to a good start. That means you have extra money and you can put that money, those funds towards areas of your budget, such as, like a retirement savings or paying off a debt, maybe even saving up for a vacation, or if you wanted to save up for buying a home, you're in a good spot at that way. If your expenses are more than your income, that means you're overspending and you need to make some changes, which leads us to our next and final step, making adjustments to expenses. If you're in a situation where expenses are higher than your income, find areas in your variable expenses you can cut. You can look for places where you can reduce your spending, like maybe eating out less or eliminating a category, like if you subscribe to Netflix or Hulu or something like that, maybe you can cut that category out of your expenses. Or if you have a gym membership, maybe you can cut that expense out for the time being until you can get yourself a little bit more financially stable. So there you can, because you have all of the different categories listed out, you'll be able to isolate variable expenses where you can determine whether you can be flexible with that expense or not. You want to aim to have your income and expense columns be equal. This equal balance means all of your income is accounted for and budgeted towards a specific expense or savings goal. Okay. Now, there are a couple of ways you can track expenses using, you can use templates found in Excel. Excel has some ready-made templates where you can just kind of enter in your expenses based on the defaulted categories that they have, and you can create a budget that way, or you can create your own, which we'll be doing today. And so we'll go ahead and transition. I'm going to put a link in the chat box. This link will give you, it will take you to our Google Drive, where you'll be able to download the exercise that we're going to be doing next and follow along. Okay. Okay. I'm just going to transition over to that. If you click on the link that's in our chat box, it'll take you to this Google Drive link. And here you can see there's like a little arrow. That's a download button, so you can either click on that. If you don't see that show up, you can go ahead and right click. Let's see, down here. Or it gives me an option over here to download all. And if you click on that, it will download, or you can just click on this arrow here and a pop-up will come up here. Okay. And then you can click on the, let me see if the link didn't go through. Are you able to see the link now? The link should go through now. Okay, perfect. So you can go ahead and download that. Okay, and that will bring you to this spreadsheet here. I'm going to just tell you a little bit about the spreadsheet. This is the exercise that we have. So on the bottom down here, you'll see there's multiple tabs. And that's going to break out our exercise step by step so that you're able to follow along. And if you kind of fall behind or something like that, you'll be able to go back to that step, but then you can jump ahead where we're at in the class so that you can be where we're at and you don't have to fall too behind. In order to flip through the tabs here, you'll see that there's a little a triple dot button here, and that will help you see all of the different tabs that are labeled down here on the worksheets. Or you can click on these arrows over here if you're working in Excel. And then I'll show a quick example of what the budget that we're going to be creating here. So on the screen, we have the budget that we're going to be creating. And there's many ways that you can create and format a budget. What the class is here today, you're going to be working on. The point is to be familiar with a lot of the functionalities and formats found in Excel. That way, once you understand the functionalities that you can do in Excel, then you can create a customized spreadsheet that fits your needs. So you can create a budget and format it that will help, that'll be specific to the expenses that are relevant to your life. So there's many ways to format it, but this is what we'll be doing today. Okay, so at the top, you'll see that the columns, we have the different categories of our expenses. up here, and then we have our monthly budget. So this is going to be our expected expense. We do have a breakdown of our income, so what our expected income is going to be, and then what our expected expense is going to be. And then our monthly actual is where we're going to enter our actual expense. And then we have our final column where it calculates the difference of what our budget was and what our expenditure was, and it will help us identify if we overspent in a category or if we actually saved some money and didn't spend what we expected. At the bottom, we have some expense totals to help you see what money you expected and what your total expense was, and if there was any overspending that you did or anything like that. Okay, so now I'll go ahead and transition to the very first worksheet, and you can kind of follow along by just clicking over to the first worksheet that's called Initial Formatting. Here, this one, you don't need to do this. This is just for the class purposes, so that you guys are able to see clearly what I have on the screen. But you don't necessarily have to do this specific step. I'm going to go ahead and move this over. So when you want to highlight and format, or actually when you want to format the whole spreadsheet, you want to first highlight all of the cells. And a quick way to do that is this the topmost corner box on the spreadsheet. It has this little arrow over here. You're going to click on that, and that's going to highlight all of the rows and all of the rows and all of the columns. Once you have your whole spreadsheet highlighted, you can change the font or the font size to your preference. You don't have to, you can just use the default settings if you'd like, but I'll go ahead and change it to the font size 14, just so that it's a little bit bigger and participants are able to see what I'm working on. And then I'm going to change the column spreadsheet width to 20. And to do that, you're going to come over to the top ribbon, the home ribbon, where it says cells, and you'll see format. You're going to click on format, and then you're going to select column width, and that'll have a little pop-up, and we're going to change the column width to 20. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And what this does is it expands our cells so that it's easy for you to see what you're going to be typing in, and it's not going to get cut off by the next cell. So that's why we kind of expand the width of the column. Okay, so that initial step in our formatting has been done. So I'm going to go to the next worksheet. So down here on the next tab, we're going to start with step 1, which is labeling our columns. And the instructions to do this are right here in this blue box. It tells you the step-by-step instructions. So we're going to go ahead and do what it says there. In cell A1, we're going to type in month/year. This will help us understand which month we're looking at. In B1, we're going to type in category. In cell C1, we're going to type in monthly budget. And in D1, we're going to type in monthly actual. Okay. And in cell E1, we're going to type in difference. Now we're going to highlight cell A1 through E1. You can do this by clicking down on cell A1, and you're going to hold down on your click and drag it across to cell E1. Okay. Now that all of those are highlighted, we're going to select bold on our format option up top in our home button or home tab. So we're going to bold, and we're going to do center alignment, which is under alignment up top. We're going to do center alignment, and then we're going to fill in a desired color. This will help break down the budget worksheet or spreadsheet into categories or sections so that it's easy for you to read. And you can select any color that you'd like. I'll go ahead and choose, I don't know, a blue color. That looks nice. Okay, so that's step one. This is labeling our columns. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and go to step two. And so we're going to go to the next tab, worksheet on the bottom. We'll go ahead and click on step two, label sections. Okay. If you see that part of your spreadsheet is cut off, you can just scroll over. The scrolling bar is down here. We're just going to scroll over so that we can see our what we're working on here. And then once again, in our blue box over here, we see our instructions. So in cell A2, here's A2, we're going to go ahead and type in income. And we're going to go ahead and highlight. In order to highlight, you can click outside of the box and then click on A1 again. And then we're going to bold the text. And then we're going to highlight cell A2 and E2. A2 to E2, and then we're going to fill in a desired color. So because this is income, which is money coming in, I'll just put a green color to signify that, but you can choose any color, it's your preference. Okay. And then in cell A6, I'm going to go ahead and type in expenses. We're going to repeat the formatting that we did similar to income. So we're going to highlight cell A6 and we're going to bold. And then we're going to click A6 and highlight cells A6 through E6. And we're going to fill in a desired color. I'll just do blue again. Okay. And so that is labeling our two different sections. So we have our income section and we have our expense section. Next, we're going to go ahead and go to step three. So once again, we'll go down to our worksheet tab, click on step three, titled Label Rows. So this one has a lot of instructions on how to do this. This part of your budget, when you're going to be creating your own budget after this exercise, this is where it will be different based on the individual. So there will be different categories of expenses that are relevant to you. So you don't have to follow the categories that we are going to be placing in this exercise specifically, but it'll just help you give an idea of what those possible categories can be. Okay. So in cell B3, we're going to go ahead and type in job A salary, and you can differentiate job A salary and job B salary with your name, or if it's you and your spouse in a household, you can put your names instead of job A salary and job B salary. Okay. We'll go ahead and type job B salary in cell B4. And in cell B5, we're going to type in income total. Okay. And then we're going to highlight cells A5 and B5. We're going to select merge cells. So this merge and center option up here in alignment, we're going to go ahead and click on that. And then we're going to select bold for our font. And then we're going to align it to the right. It defaults to center when you click on merge and center, but we want to align it to the right. Okay. Then we're going to work on our expenses. So in cell A7 through A12, we're going to type in different categories of our expenses. So in A7, we're going to type in food. Then we're going to type in car. Then in cell A9, we have health. In A10, we have utilities. In A11, we have debt. And in A12, we have miscellaneous. Okay. We're going to highlight cells A through 12, and we're going to select Align to the Right option. And once again, these categories are just examples. You can have them ordered differently based on your personal preference. Some of the categories, there might be different categories that are more relevant to your life. So this is just an example. Once again, these categories can be changed. And then what we're going to do next is we're going to have subcategories under these main categories that we have here. And how we're going to do that is we're going to showcase that in our B column. So in B7 for food, we're going to go ahead and type in groceries. Okay. Now we have another subcategory, and that's eating out. And so in order to do that, we need to insert a row. And how do we insert a row? We're going to hover over to the left, the row number that we want to insert our blank row in. So that in this instance, it's going to be row 8. We're going to right click on the number row, and we're going to click on insert for the pop-up menu that comes up. Okay. And that then you can see that it actually pushes down all of our information, and it inserts a new row here where we can type in our next subcategory, which is eating out. Okay. And that's it for the food category. And so we're going to go on to the next category, car. And so we have gasoline. We have another subcategory, which is maintenance. And so we're going to add another row, which once again, you're going to hover over a row number that you want to insert your row, right click, and then click on insert to have that row inserted for a new row. And then in cell B10, we're going to go ahead and write maintenance. Once again, if you have any questions, please let me know. You can type your questions in the chat box if you have any. All right. And then our next category is health. So we're going to go ahead and put fitness. And then we're going to insert another row. And I have 2 more categories under health, so I'm going to add another one. And then we'll go ahead and type in doctor visits for cell B12. And then medicine for cell B13. And you can continue along. Just to save some time, I'm going to pop to the next tab, which is step 3, label rows B. And if you click on that tab, it just has all of that information already entered in just to save some time for the class purposes. And so once you have all of that entered in, then the next steps are right here in this blue box here. So we're going to type in cell A24, expense total. Okay. I'm going to highlight cell A24 and B24. We're going to go ahead and once again merge and center these cells and align to the right. Okay. We're going to do similar steps in row 25, but we're going to have net income in cell A25. And once again, we're going to highlight cells A25 and B25. Click on merge and center under alignment top, and then align to the right. Okay. And now we'll go ahead and go to our next step. So down here on our tab worksheet, once again, we'll go ahead and click on step 4, add formulas. Okay. There are different ways to insert formulas in spreadsheets. And so you might have another way of putting formulas in, but this is one way to help calculate some of the different numbers that we'll be inputting in here. For the class purposes, I'm going to be adding zeros into our spreadsheet as placeholders so that it's a little bit easier for participants to understand what's going on in the spreadsheet. But when you're working at home, you don't necessarily have to do this in order for Excel to put in formulas and things like that. But this is just to help visually understand what's going on in our spreadsheet. So in cells C3 through E25, we're going to put in the numbers 0 as placeholders, okay? So I'm going to just type in 0 for cell C3. I'm just going to press enter. And now a quick way to copy this number over is when you have cell C3 highlighted, so you're going to click on that cell, and on the bottom corner you'll see this little square box, and we're going to hover over that square box. Our cursor will change to this solid plus sign. So once it's changed to that solid black plus sign, we're going to click and we're going to drag over to column E, okay? And if you let go, you'll see that our zeros have copied over. And then the row is still highlighted. So our cells C3 through E3 are still highlighted. And we still see that little tiny square box. So I'm going to hover over that again until I see my solid black plus sign for the cursor. I'm going to click down and I'm going to drag it all the way down to cell E25. So that's down here. If I let go, we can see that now all of our highlighted cells have zeros in it. Once again, these are just placeholders so that we understand what's going on. And some of our formatting did change. We'll go ahead and fix that later on. If you see in cell 6, this was just like a section break, but because we copied over our zeros, we now have a 0 here. But we'll go ahead and fix that after we have our formulas in our spreadsheet. So don't worry about that too much right now. Okay, so I'm now just going to click outside of that. And we're going to now format how our numbers are going to look in our spreadsheet. Okay, so here you can see the next set of instructions. So under our home tab, so we're already defaulted to our home tab. In the number section down here, you can see in our tab up here, we see the number section. So we're going to click on this drop down arrow where usually Excel defaults to general. So we're just going to click on this drop down arrow, and we're going to select more number formats, the last option on this pop-up menu. And that'll give us a pop-up window titled Format Cells. And here you can see the different options we have to format the numbers. And we're going to select currency. And then you can select how you want your numbers on your spreadsheet to look like. My preference is to have any negative numbers show up as red. So if I am overspending in my budget, it will help me identify quickly where that section or that category is. So it'll just help me identify or alert me on what I need to pay attention to real quickly. But if your preference is another format, that's no problem. It's not going to change the calculations or anything like that. This is just how you visually want to see your numbers. So my preference is going to be where it has the negative numbers in red and in a parentheses. And so I'm going to click on OK. A couple of other things, you want to make sure that you have symbols selected with the $sign. Okay. And then I like to see 2 decimal place values. Most of the time when you are budgeting, you will have decimal values, but you can round up if you'd like to, but that will kind of change the accuracy. So it's up to you if you want to round up or if you want to see the decimal places there. So I'm going to click on OK. Oh, actually, I'm sorry about that. We're going to go ahead and highlight cells C3 through A25. I apologize for that mistake. And we're just going to redo that whole thing. So once we have our cells highlighted, what we want to format, we're going to go ahead and click on General, More Number Formats, Currency, and then select the format that you want and click on OK. Now you can see that our numbers or the formatting of our numbers have changed. We have a $sign next to each number here, and we have a decimal place value for all of the numbers. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and add some actual formulas into our spreadsheet. So in cell C5, we're going to use the sum function to add cells C3 and C4, okay? So we're going to click on cell C5, and there's a couple of ways you can get to sum. You can first go to this insert function button up at the top. If you click on that, it will pop up a sum or insert function window. I'm just going to click on cancel real quick so you can see the other options of how you can get to functions. The other option is clicking on the insert tab up here. And then you can go to not insert. There's the auto sum up here. So you have an auto sum option here as well. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the function section here, and then the formulas is the other tab actually. So here on the formulas tab, you see the insert function button here, and that's another way to get to the insert function window or the auto sum function. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the Home tab, and I'll click on the insert function button here. And then it defaults the first option to sum, so we don't have to do much searching. So we'll just go ahead and click on that and click on OK. Next, what we will do is we will go ahead and select the range that we want to calculate. So for in this cell, we want to calculate cells C3 and C4. So you're going to click down and highlight cell C3 and C4. Okay, and then you can see here that the range is C3 and C4. We're going to click on OK. There isn't any change because we didn't add input any values in our cells, but we can quickly see whether or not it actually inputted our cell formula. There are a couple of ways to do that. If you click on C5, you'll see up top here in our formula bar that we have our sum formula. And then we can see it work by just putting some dummy numbers. So if we put 2 and we enter, we can see that our cell our cell 5 has changed to 2 because it's adding $2 and $0. And so you get $2 here. If we add a number to cell C4, you can see, or job B salary, you can see that that has changed. So our function is working properly. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete or add 0, change that back to 0. And then what we're going to do is we're going to autofill or copy this function that we had in cell C5 over to cell D5 and E5. And the quick way to do that is once you have cell C5 highlighted, you're going to hover over, once again, that little square box. You're going to wait until your cursor has changed to the black plus sign. We're going to click down and we're going to drag over to the, cell D5 and cell E5. Okay. Now, when we click outside of that and we select cell D5, we can see in our formula bar that it has changed. There's now a formula there. And you can also see that the calculations capture the column D. So when we go to C5, the calculations are in column C. When we go to D5, the calculations are in column D. And then similarly with cell E5, the calculations capture column E. And then we can go ahead and see if the changes actually appear. Okay. We can see that that works out fine. Okay. Then we're going to work on our expense totals. So in cell C24, we're going to once again use the sum function, but we're going to add our cells C7 through C23. Okay, so here is C7, and we're going to calculate all of our categories from C7 to C23. So we're going to repeat that process by clicking on expense total in cell C24. And we're going to click on our function button here up top. And it's already defaulted to sum, and so we're going to click on OK. And now we're going to select our range. Okay. And sometimes Excel is able to catch what range you want. In this case, because we had a place value where our expense section is going to go, it tried to capture cell C6, but we actually don't need that to be calculated. So we'll go ahead and click on and highlight the proper cell range. So that's going to be cell C7 through C23. Okay, and we're going to click on OK. And then we'll do the same autofill for cell D24. Okay. And then in net income, that's the next section. In cell C25, we're going to enter a formula. This is our difference. Okay. And this is going to calculate what our difference is between our budgeted income and what our budgeted expense is. So that's going to give us the difference. And for us to enter that formula, we're going to actually type it in because it's a simple calculation. We're just finding the difference between two cells. So what we're going to do here is we're going to highlight cell C25, and we're going to click at the top, and we're going to delete the 0, and we're going to type in this formula, which is equals. Anytime you want to type in a formula, it needs to start with the equal sign. That will let Excel know that we're typing in a function or formula. And then we're going to click on, or you can type it in, but we'll go ahead and click on C5. Then we'll type in the negative sign or the minus sign, and we're going to click on expense total. Okay, so here we have C5 minus C24. Okay, we'll click on, or we'll press down enter. And now when we click on cell C25, we see that our formula is there. Okay, I'm just going to press the exit button so that it just deselects the highlighted cells. Okay, and then next we're going to do, once again, we're going to do our autofill. So we're going to highlight C25, hover over this small box once again, and then just click and drag so that formula carries over to the next column. And if we click on cell D25, we can see that it does capture the D column over. Okay. Next, we're going to go ahead and insert some formulas for our difference column here in column E. So in E3, we're actually going to change the formula. We need it to be D3 minus C3. So we're just going to go ahead and type in that formula. So I actually auto-filled too much over. We don't need the sum of, we can keep it to the sum, but we're going to look at the difference here, actually, not the sum. So I'm going to just go ahead and delete the formula here up on our formula bar, and I'm going to type in the calculation that we need, which is the equal sign. And then we'll click on cell D3, which is our monthly actual, what we actually spent in our budget or with our expenses. And then we're going to subtract it from what our budget was. So minus C3. Okay. And we'll click on or press enter. And if we click on cell E5, we see that that formula has the formula has been entered into that cell. Okay, and we'll just click on, once again, the exit button on our keyboard to deselect the highlighted cells. Okay, and our formula is still intact. Then we're going to autofill this difference formula. And we're going to have it go through cells E4 through E25. Oh, I'm sorry, I was on the wrong cell. So it's the same thing, but just on the cell E3. So I actually went to a different cell, but that's fine. I'll just go ahead and copy it over with autofill. So I'm just going to hover over that small box, and I'm just going to drag it up to cell E3. And if I click outside of that and click back to cell E3, you can see that the calculations did capture cells or row E3. Okay, so that was the difference. We wanted it to capture the calculations in row 3. And so cell E3 did capture that. And then we're going to just click and once again autofill. So we're going to click on our little box and drag all the way down to cell E25. Okay. And then I'm just going to click out. We actually do not need this calculation in E25. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. You can keep the calculation, but it doesn't really do much to the budgeting process or your budgeting calculation. It just will calculate the difference in your net income. But you won't really need that in our final calculations for our budgeting. Okay, so we went ahead and did that. Now, when we click on our different rows in column E, we can see that there's a calculation for the difference in our little categories that we have here. So that's what this formula is doing in this column. Okay. And the final thing is we're just going to go ahead and reformat row 6. So we're just going to delete these numbers here. These were just placeholders, so it was easy for us to format everything. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight these rows and go ahead and fill in the color. Fill in the color that matches. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and go to step 5. It's a little bit covered down here, so if you wanted to see the full title, you can click on this triple dot button right next to the little worksheets here, and we'll go ahead and I'll click on that so I can see more of the spreadsheets that we have. So I'm going to go ahead and click on step 5, which is the next step in our exercise. So here we're going to now format our spreadsheet. This is just personal preference. This is just for you to visually be able to quickly look at your budget and be able to capture or grab essential information. So if there's a different way that you found formatting wise to be helpful, you can do it that way. This is just a suggested example of formatting a spreadsheet. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and highlight all of our cells in our spreadsheet. So that's going to be columns A through E. And then we're going to highlight all of our rows. So still clicking down, we're going to highlight rows 1 through 25. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and click under our borders section. So in our home tab, under the font category, you'll see this borders button. You're going to want to click on the drop down arrow, and you'll see more options here on how to place borders in your spreadsheet. So we're going to select thick bottom, or no, actually it's all borders. Select all borders, okay? And then the next step is to highlight cells A1 through E1. Okay. And we're going to, once again, go back to our borders button, and we're going to select that drop down arrow. We're going to select the option that says thick bottom border. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to alignment. In our alignment section here, we have bottom alignment. It should already be defaulted to that, but in case it wasn't, you can go ahead and click on bottom alignment, and then center alignment as well. Okay. Then we're going to go ahead and select A4 through E4. And we're going to go back to our borders options, and we're going to select bottom double border. Okay. And we'll repeat that for A23 and A24. Okay. And you don't have to click on the bottom arrow for this next step, because it's already it already has the previous format selected. So since bottom double border is already selected, you can just click on this button here. Or if you you find it a little bit confusing, you can always just click on this excuse me, this bottom or this drop down arrow, and then click on bottom double border. Okay, we'll do that for row A24 or A25. Okay. Oh, it was the wrong one. We're just going to undo that. There we go. And then our next one, our next step is to highlight column A and set width using Autofit column width. Okay, so in order to highlight a column, we're just going to hover over that column. So for this instance, it's column A until you see the black arrow. So we're going to go ahead and click on that, and we can see that our whole column A is shaded and highlighted. And up top under Format, we're going to click on that bottom arrow, and you can see that there's the option to auto fit column width. And so we're going to go ahead and click on that. And what this does is it's going to auto size our column width by the longest entry. So here miscellaneous was the longest entry in that column, and so it's going to auto fit all of the cells to that size. So that's what that does. And then we're going to go ahead and set the size to the rest of our columns. So with E, column E through, or C through E, we're going to set the width size to 20. And earlier in our initial formatting, we already had it set to 20, but we'll just double check to make sure. Okay, so here it has 22. So we'll go ahead and change that to 20. Okay, and that got resized. And then for our column B, I don't think it's actually written here. So I apologize for that, but resizing column B, there's another way to do that. You can actually double click in between the two columns. So when it changes to this cursor that looks like a line going vertically, and then a line with the two arrows going on both sides horizontally. So once that cursor changes to that sign, that cursor, you're going to go ahead and double click on it, and that will automatically size the column to the width of the most longest cell. So that's another quick way instead of doing the Autofit width size. Okay. The next thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and highlight cells A2 through E2. We're going to merge and center. That way our income section is nicely sectioned off. And we'll do the same thing for our expenses section. We're going to highlight A6 through E6 and merge and center. Okay, there we go. So then we're going to go ahead and go to our next section or next step. On the bottom of our spreadsheet, we have step 6, our template. When you're going to create a spreadsheet, you want to make sure that you save a template. This way you don't have to rebuild your budget spreadsheet every single month. That would be, very time consuming. So you want to have a standard template that you're going to be using, and then you can just copy that spreadsheet over into your workbook. So that you have different files or different worksheets, tabs for your different months. And that'll help with the tracking of your spending. Okay. So our next step is we're going to take this template that we created, and we're going to actually move it over to a completely new workbook or new file, because this current file that we have, it has all of these steps and different tabs that we were just working on. And so when you have your own budget, you don't need all of that clutter. So we want to take this template and we're going to move it over to a new file so we can start fresh and clean, but we don't lose all of the work that we just did. And in order to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to right click on our worksheet tab at the bottom, and we're going to select rename. Actually, yes. Yeah, so for this instance, we already have it as template, but we'll go ahead and rename it again so you can see what that looks like. And so it highlights the name of the spreadsheet. And so we're just going to delete step 6 here. And then we have template. Okay, so we have that renamed. And then we're going to right click on the worksheet tab again, and we're going to select move or copy. Okay, so once you click on that, you'll see a little window that pops up. And to move this to a new file, we're going to first make sure that you have the create a copy checked. If you don't check this box, what it'll do is it'll just move this template worksheet over, and you won't have this in your original file anymore. It'll completely remove it over to a new file. But we want to just create a copy. it's a little bit easier if you make a mistake or if you lose the new file, then you can go back to your original file and you still have your work saved. So I always like to create a copy in that sense. And then under To Book, we're going to go ahead and click on this drop down arrow, and we're going to click on New Book. Okay, and then we'll just click on OK. And what that does is now it has opened up to a new file completely. So you can see at the top of your screen on your Excel window that it now has a different name. For me, I can't see it. Okay, so it's titled Book 1. And then you can see on the bottom, all of the worksheets, they're gone because it's in the different file. So if I were to hover over my documents, you can see our project exercises right here, which says simple budgets using Excel. And then we have our new file right here, which is Book 1. I have another file for example purposes that we'll see later on, but here's our new file that we were able to copy over. Okay, so I'm going to click on that. So we go back to that window. And then here, this is going to be your template. And so you want to make sure that you leave this template, that you don't work on or enter any information in here, because this is what you're going to be copying over when the new month comes in. And how you copy a new worksheet is you're going to go ahead and right click on your template. You're going to select Move or Copy again. And then we'll go ahead and click on Create a Copy down here. And I like to select Move to the End. So what that means is this new spreadsheet is going to just pop over to the end of your worksheets that you have, the worksheet tabs that you have. So if you don't have Move to the End selected, it will have it as it will default to copying over it to the first tab. So when we build the different months of our budget, we'll have January, February, March, April, and etc. And so when we have a new, when we create a copy of our template, we'll want it to just go over to the end of the spreadsheet. It just makes it a little bit easier. So we'll go ahead and click on OK for that. When you copy it over, it's going to retain the original name of the worksheet, and it'll have like the number, a number next to it. So this is just a second worksheet of this name. And so we're going to go ahead and change that name. We're going to right click on it, select Rename, and here we'll type in the month that we want. So we'll go ahead and type in January. I'll abbreviate to Jan, Jan, and then do 2021 for the year, and then click OK. So if we toggle between template and January 2021, we can see that we have two different spreadsheets. Okay. I'm going to click and make sure I'm selecting January spreadsheet or worksheet, and we're going to go ahead and change the month and year on our cell A1. I'm going to type in January 2021. Okay, and so now I have a template here. If you see that it changes the date, you can reformat date. I can show you quickly how to do that. When you have a cell A1 selected, you'll go back to your numbers section up here, and you'll click on your drop down arrow, and you'll see that there's an option for the date. And so I'm going to click on More Numbers, and then I'm going to click on Date, and I'll have the, I don't like the formats that they have here, the options, because it's not capturing the year. Okay, here it is. So the default that they have here, I'd like this one because it captures the year, March 12, which means that it's 2012. So I'll click on that. If you don't like that formatting either, the other option that you have is you can just select text on the bottom here. And then it'll default to this number for some reason. Excel does that. But then when I type in January 2021 and I press enter, it just retains the dry text that I had entered in. If you find the other format confusing. Okay. Then now, let's see. So now we have our January spreadsheet, and this is where you can start entering your information. Okay. So I'm going to toggle back to our original exercise files. I'm just going to minimize this, and I'm going to go ahead and go to step 7 in our original exercise file. And I'm going to click on step 7, which says enter data. And so here I already have a sample of information inputted. So in our monthly budget, we have for job A salary, we have $2,200. And then in our job B salary, we have $1,800, and it calculates to $4,000 in our income total here. And then I entered in our monthly actual. And so I entered in that, and it calculates that here. Here we see we don't have any difference with what our budgeted income was and what our monthly actual was. So there's nothing to be alarmed here because it's all balances out. Then in our monthly budget for our categories in our expenses section, I entered in some dummy numbers just for an example. And so I went ahead and just inputted some numbers in here so you can have an idea of what that looks like and how it calculates. Here we have our expense total and our net income. Once again, it's taking what our income total is and finding the difference with our expense total. And we see here we are at a positive number, which is good. That means we have some savings that we can put towards paying off any debt or saving money for any expenses that we want to save up towards, maybe a vacation, or if you're saving up to buy a house or something like that. That'll be what you can project to save if you follow your budget. And then our monthly actual column under our expenses section, you can see I've inputted some numbers here. And so this is where you can find some areas where you would want to be alert about what is going on with your expenses. So if there's any numbers that are just in regular black, that's finding the difference between your monthly budget and what you spent, and you actually were under budget. So you're saving some money, or you have some money that you didn't spend that you were expecting to spend. So you're in a good spot in that sense. But the areas where you have this red number, that means that there is a negative difference between what your monthly budget was and what your monthly actual was. And so whenever you see a negative number when you are assessing or evaluating your budget, that's where you want to be alert. So here we actually went over budget and we spent $32 more than expected. And in our eating out section, we actually spent $71 over our expected budget. But also we have some areas or some categories where we actually, saved money or didn't go over budget. So that helped us out a little bit as we overspent, but we still, and our expense total, see that we're over $38. So $38 isn't a lot. And if you can see our net income, we still do have some savings. So that might be something where, we might have some wiggle room, even though we went over $38. These are just dummy numbers. So in reality, we might not have such a cushy number here, when we actually look at all of our expenses and what reality is, this number may not be so cushy, and we might not have so much wiggle room when we go over our expenses. So I have another spreadsheet here where I have just put together some more spreadsheets. So I have January, February, and March. And so similarly, we can look at some of what's going on with these expenses. So here, yes, the numbers have changed a little bit, but that doesn't matter too much, because what we're going to do is we're going to look at what this means when we're overspending. So here we see that, we went over our expected budget with groceries and eating out and gasoline. And let's look at our next month. So this is February. And those three categories, actually, we're overspending again in February. And let's see if the same thing happens in March. Okay, so in groceries, we actually we didn't go over, but eating out, we went a lot over. If we look back at February, it was just $5. If we look back at January, it was just $21. In March, it was way over $220. That's a lot of money that we overspent. Maybe, there was an unexpected situation that happened at that time or that month. Maybe a lot of, we had to do a lot of entertaining, or guests came or something like that. And even our gas money that we budgeted for, we have been over. So when you see that there's a trend in overspending, then you have to look at whether or not you are budgeting for yourself a practical or realistic budget. Because our spending habits and our lifestyle, you'll see some certain trends. So it might be that we need to adjust our spending for groceries. Maybe we can look at how we shop for groceries or how we are eating out. We can try to, find ways to save money in that sense. So there's, other ways that you can, save money with groceries, maybe, looking at your sales that go on in grocery stores and maybe save up that way. A lot of people do couponing. With eating out, instead of eating out, trying to make meals or lunches at home, whatever, your lifestyle is, you can try to see if there are areas or ways for you to cut down on some of your spending depending on your lifestyle. Or you can adjust what your expenses are, because we do have some discretionary funds here. So maybe we're just, being a little bit too strict on ourselves, or our spending isn't practical to what we budgeted for. So you can adjust things a little bit that way as well. But those are just some of the ways that you can kind of look at some of the trends in your spending. Similarly, if you see that, with maintenance for your car, you budgeted towards $20 every month, but if you look at maintenance, we don't really use it that much. We're saving our $20 in maintenance every month. So maybe we can just remove that subcategory, and we can take that budgeted line item and just shift it into our groceries. And so instead of having a maintenance category, we can change it to $420 for our budgeted groceries. And then if we ever do need any maintenance on our car, we do have some discretionary funds that we're building every month. And so we can kind of have some room to spend if that does pop up. And you would want to add that expense. And you can easily do that by inserting some new rows. So in this example, we can insert a row and we can title it, unexpected expenses or something like that. And we can add our formulas here, and we can add any unexpected expenses, whatever that may be, in this section. And it'll still calculate that. You might not have a budget for it, but you will have that actual expense here. And so you can build that into your spreadsheet if it's relevant to you. Okay. So that brings us to the end of our program today. Thank you all for participating and joining us. If there are any questions about our program or our activity, please put it in our chat box. We'll go ahead and stick around. I'll go ahead and give some more information here. So we have our Plano Library website where you can visit and get some more information about the different programs that we have to offer. You can also find more information about programs and classes at our Plano Library Learns blog. And then all of our participants that registered for our class today will receive a recording or a link of the program today. And you can go ahead and look at that. We have a survey. If you can go ahead and respond to the survey, that will be really helpful for us to help provide quality programming for our participants. So please do that. Yes, a recording will be sent, a link to the recording will be sent to you in an email in a couple of days to the email that you registered for the class. And yeah, if we don't have any questions, we'll stick around just for a minute or two. But if no questions come in, we'll go ahead and end our program for today. Thank you all so much for joining us.